So I think it was early last week we talked about the distributive property in our notes. It was in the, was that even, no, that might have been the week before, near the end of the week before, when we were talking about properties of real numbers. It was the very bottom of that first page of notes that we took. And that would have been on, let's see what day that was. Let's see. Properties of real numbers was the 24th. And so the distributive property, we reviewed it very quickly. It says to multiply a value by an expression inside parentheses. And you distribute by multiplying the value on the outside by each of the values on the inside of the parentheses. And that gets you to the same answer either way. And I mentioned when we were doing this that if all you have are regular numbers, it doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense to use a distributive property because order of operations is probably going to be quicker. 3 plus 4 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, as opposed to 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 6 plus 8 is 14. It's quicker if you're going to be using order of operations if all you have are numbers. However, I did mention that if you have a combination of numbers and variables, or if you just have variables, and you have to get rid of parentheses, the only way to do that is to use the distributive property because like this one down here, x plus 7, we can't add those together because they're not like terms. We did that lesson yesterday with combining like terms. You're not allowed to add those two things together because one has a variable, one is a variable, and one isn't. And the only way to get rid of the parentheses is to distribute by multiplication. And in math, it makes mathematical sense to be able to multiply in situations where you can't necessarily add. So we're going to rewrite the rule off to the side here, and then we're just going to work through a bunch of examples. It's going to be pretty straightforward today. So we're going to recall that if you have a number on the outside of some parentheses and you have a couple of things in the inside being added together, you can take the value on the outside and multiply it by both of the things on the inside. So I'm going to say, all right, A gets multiplied by B and A gets multiplied by C. And that ends up being A times B is just A times B or AB. If you put two variables right next to each other with no space, we are implying multiplication. Plus A times C or just AC. For that second one, it's just showing that it also works if the terms inside of the parentheses are being subtracted. It works either way. So you can take that value of A, multiply by the value of B, multiply by the value of C as well. So this one, we'd end up with A times B, which is AB, minus A times C, which is AC. So it works with addition in the parentheses or subtraction in the parentheses because you can always multiply. You can't always add, you can't always subtract, especially when you're dealing with like terms or unlike terms in this situation. But multiplication is something that you can always end up doing. So let's go ahead and just jump in here, take a look at problem number 1. We've got 7 times, and I'm going to introduce a new word. When you have terms inside of parentheses, you would call that a quantity. So let me write this off to the side down here, a quantity. Terms inside a set of parentheses. So when you hear me say something like 7 times the quantity x plus 4, that means when I use that word quantity, that means I'm talking about things inside of parentheses. So the way that we would say this first one is A times the quantity B plus C, and this one would be A times the quantity B minus C. So for number 1, we're taking 7 and multiplying by the quantity of x plus 4. So we're just going to take our value of 7 and multiply by the x and multiply by the 4. And that gives us 7 times x, which is just 7x. And then 7 times 4 is 28. So 7x plus 28 is the result of the distributive property on that first problem. For the second one, we're going to take our 2, multiply by the quantity b minus 3. You don't have to show the arrows and the circling the number on the outside if you don't want to. I'm going to do that just to show you what we're doing on each one of these. But that's something that you can do if you feel like it's helpful, but it's not a necessary thing to do. 2 multiplied by b is just 2 times b, or 2b. And then minus 2 times 3 would be minus 6. And remember that when you are multiplying these, you're still looking on the inside of these parentheses. Look to the left of the values to see if you're multiplying by a positive or a negative. So this is a positive 2 times a negative 3, which is going to be a negative 6, or minus 6. That's going to make a difference once we start multiplying negatives by negatives, or if you have a negative value on the outside of the parentheses, like on number 3. So we have negative 4 times the quantity y plus 3. Negative 4 times y is negative 4 times y, which is negative 4y. That's what it looks like on paper. Now, negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12. So we're going to write minus 12. Or if you want to write plus negative 12, that's fine. It means the same thing. But it's a little bit less to write if you just write minus 12. All right, we're going to do 3 more, and then I'm going to have you work on the following 9 on your own to see what you can come up with. All right, number 4, we're going to take our negative 5, multiply by the quantity m minus 2. Negative 5 times m is negative 5m. Negative 5 times negative 2 is what? Positive 10. Yes, so it's going to be negative 5m plus 10. That's a negative. That's a negative. Negative times a negative is always a positive. Number 5. Does anybody know what to do with number 5? I'm sure you've seen something like this in previous years, but do you remember what to do when you see just a negative? So it's a negative times the quantity y minus 9. Anybody remember what to do with that? Let's take a look at our notes from yesterday real quick and see if we can find something that is not the same, but at least somewhat similar. I think we can. Because we wrote something down. Yeah, example 2. So if there is a negative right next to something, that's the same as having a what? A negative 1. And it's the same idea with the distributive property, because this is negative a, or negative 1 times a. It's a multiplication that's happening here. Negative 1 times the value of a. So if we have multiplication of a negative, just a negative, that's the same thing as the multiplication of a negative 1. So if you want to, you can try to squeeze in a 1 right next to that, and that's a negative 1 right there. So essentially, we're multiplying the y and the negative 9 by a negative 1. Anytime you have a negative hanging out on the outside of a set of parentheses, multiply the things on the inside, multiply that quantity by negative 1. And when you multiply by negative 1, the only thing that happens is you take the opposite of whatever values there are in here. So y turns into the opposite of y, or negative y. Negative 9 turns into a positive 9. So we get negative y plus 9, or negative 1y plus 9. We just take the opposite of the values when you multiply by negative 1. All right, number 6, we have 8 times the quantity 4 minus b. 8 times the quantity 4 minus b. So we're going to multiply. We're going to have 8 times 4, which is 32. 8 times a negative b would be a minus 8b. And I'm going to do something on this one a little bit different because I mentioned yesterday, there's this thing called standard form when you write an expression. And most of the time we like to write the variables first. So I'm going to switch around the 32 and the negative 8b. So I'm going to write equals negative 8b plus 32. And the reason why it's a plus 32 is because this 32, that 32 is positive. The minus is attached to the 8b. So the minus keeps with the 8b, and it makes it a negative 8b up front. That's a positive 32, so we add it to the back of that. All right, I would like you to work on numbers 7 through 15 on your own, 7 through 15 on your own. We'll do 16 through 18 together, but work on 7 through 15 on your own. So those next 9 problems, and I'm going to give you, let's say, 5 minutes. So what do we have right now? 27. So at 8:32, or no, we're at 22. Yes. So at 8:27 or 8:28-ish, I'm going to start calling on some people, randomly calling on some folks, and I'm just going to ask you what you have for each of these problems. So use the distributive property on 7 through 15. Give you 5 minutes on that. So we'll say 8:28. I'll check back in and I'll start calling on some random folks and we'll get these answers written in. If you have any questions as you're working through these, let me know. I'm happy to drop by and offer some assistance. If you need a calculator for some of the multiplication, feel free to do that. Or if you want to check your multiplication chart for some of the multiplication, that's fine too. about one more minute or so on this. All right, so start taking a look at these. So with number 7, let's see, 14, that's going to be Sila. Do you have an answer for number 4 or for number 7? What's that? You do have one? Can I come look at it? All right. We're going to take our -4 on the outside of the parentheses, and we're going to multiply it by the quantity -w minus 10. So it multiplies, -4 multiplies by a -w, and -4 multiplies by a -10. Negative times a negative is always positive, and 4 times w is going to be 4 times w, or 4w. -4 times -10 is a positive, because a negative times a negative is always a positive. 4 times 10 is 40. We get 4w plus 40 for number 7. If you got any questions about these, if something is causing some confusion, please let me know, because right now is an excellent time to ask those questions to clear up anything if we need to. Next is Andrew. Andrew. Minus 24. I like the 10 now.
I like minus 15.
There you go. Thank you. All right. He's on it. All right. So we got distributive property. 5 times 2m is 10m. Now, this is the first one I think we've run into where the variable on the inside of the parentheses, let me move this so you can see it. The variable on the inside of parentheses has a coefficient, right? There is a number in front of it. And Andrew's exactly right. When you multiply a number from the outside and there's a variable or a coefficient with the variable on the inside, just multiply those two numbers together, 5 times 2. And that gives us 10. So 10m. And then 5 times -3 will give us a minus 15 or a -15. Nice, 10m minus 15. Good. So once again, if you have your number on the outside and the variable has a coefficient, it has a number with it, just multiply those two numbers together like you normally would and put that variable after it. Number 9. Paige, you have an answer for number 9? -6x plus 12. Yes, I like it. Nice job. So we're going to take our -3, distribute to the 2x and the -4. -3 times 2 is -6 with an x is -6x. And then -3 times -4 is +12. Well done. All right. Next is, let's see, 6. That is Elijah. Number 10. What do you think? 3m plus 3n, exactly. So take your 3, multiply it by m, and that's 3 times m, which is 3m. Plus, because they're both positive, 3 times n is just 3 times n, or 3n. Yep, that's it. Good, good. All right, next we have, let's see, 15, Diana, do you have number 11? Do you have number 11? Do you have an answer for number 11? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's work through it. If we multiply these two variables together, x times y, what's the easiest way to write that if you multiply those together? I'll give you a hint. Just write the letters next to each other. Yeah, xy, good. And then x times 4 is what? Yeah, xy plus 4x. Good. So when you multiply a variable with a number, just put the number right next to the variable. When you multiply two variables together, just put the two variables right next to each other. And when you're multiplying two numbers together, just do the multiplication. All right, next is, no, I already had that. Let's see, not here. And Keely, do you have an answer for number 12? DC minus 4D. Yeah, nice. We're going to take our variable d and we're going to multiply those together, dc, and then d times negative 4 is negative 4d or minus 4d. If you want to go alphabetical with this, you're welcome to do that. You could have cd minus 4d, but it doesn't really matter. Either way. Nicely done. Okay, 3 more to go here with calling on some folks. Elle, do you have an answer for number 13? What do you have? 6ab plus 12ac. Nice. So we take our 6a and multiply it by b. Because these are all different in terms of what we're looking at, the 6 stays the same. Thank you. Here are the notes right here. The 6 stays exactly the same. It's already being multiplied by a. We're multiplying it by b as well. So that's just 6 times a times b, which is 6ab. And then with the 6a times 2c, because there are two regular numbers, we multiply the regular numbers together. 6 times 2 is 12. And then a times c is just a times c or ac. By the way, this example here, number 13, is identical to the standard algebraic example right here, except there's a number with a outside and there's a number with c inside. Outside of that, it's exactly the same. The AB plus AC, we just have a couple of numbers with it. So there's really no difference between this basic algebra example up here and what we did on that one. All right, 14, getting a little bit more complex, I think, because now there's 3 things inside the parentheses, but I'll tell you, it doesn't change how we do this at all. So let's see. No, already had that. Let's see, who is up? No. All right, no, not here. Jesus, number 14, do you have an answer for that one? No, not yet. Okay, let's go ahead and do this then. So we're going to distribute the 2, and that 2 gets distributed to everything, x, negative y, and 8. So 2 times x is what? What would 2 times x look like when we multiply it? 2x, exactly. And then 2 times negative y would be what do we get with 2 times negative y? Yeah, negative 2y or minus 2y. Excellent. And then 2 times 8? 16 plus 16. Perfect. Nicely done. Thank you. So 2x minus 2y plus 16. So just attaching the 2 to the x minus the 2y. So attaching the 2 to the y as well. And then 2 times 8 is 16. Nicely done. All right, last one. Number 15, or last one that we're doing like this anyway. Ryder, what do you have for number 15? Don't have it yet? All right, let's get this one worked on. Let's see. X times 2y. How would you write that? 2yx or 2xy, either way. I'm going to write 2xy just to keep things alphabetical. But again, it doesn't matter. You could have 2yx and that's totally fine. All right, how about the next one? Yeah, minus 5xz. And then what's on the end? Yeah, plus 1x. Good. Nice. So x times 2 times y would just be those three things multiplied together. Just making sure that the number, the coefficient, is the first thing. And then preferably alphabetically, but I'm not going to be very picky about that as long as the variables are after it. And then next we've got same thing except for the 5 or minus 5. And then 1 times anything is whatever it is. All right. 16, 17, and 18. These are our last 3 regular examples. It's not going to change how we do this, though. We're going to take our 1/4. We're going to multiply it by 8x. We're going to multiply it by negative 4. Now, I'm going to write this out a little bit differently on this one. I'm going to show the multiplication, and then we're actually going to do the multiplication. So what this means is 1/4 times 8x. So I'm going to write this out as 1/4 times 8x over 1. Because that's what 1/4 times 8x means. And then we're going to have minus 4 times, now it doesn't matter what order you do this in, so I'm going to write the minus 4 here. So minus 4 over 1 times 1/4. So the 1/4 could be up front, it could be after the value as well. Multiplication, the order doesn't really matter. I wanted to keep this minus 4 in the same spot. So that's why I did it that way. And then when we multiply straight across. So 1 times 8 is 8. 4 times 1 is 1, or you can cross cancel before you do the multiplication. And if we cross cancel, this 4, that 4 will cancel out because 8 and 4 are each divisible by 4, right? So this goes back to multiplying fractions like we did a couple of weeks ago. So if we cross cancel the 8 and the 4, they're both divisible by 4. So that's now a 1 and that's now a 2. So 4 reduces to 1, 8 reduces to 2. And so then we get 1 times 2x over 1, which is just 2x. So that equals 2x. And then these 4s right here can cross cancel as well. That 4 can cancel with that 4, which means that they will both turn into 1. And if they're all 1, 1 over 1 is 1. So it's just going to be 2x minus 1. So 2x minus 1 for that one. So this goes back to multiplying fractions. Now, again, if you need to use a calculator to do the multiplication of fractions, feel free to do that. For 17, we've got 1/6 times 3/5 x times 18. So I'm going to write this out. We're going to have 1/6 times 3 over 5 x. Then we'll do plus 18 over 1 times 1 over 6. Just a reminder, when you are multiplying fractions, you do not get a common denominator. That's only for adding and subtracting fractions. You also do not keep, change, flip. That's for dividing fractions. So multiplying fractions is just straight across the numerator, straight across the denominator. And then we can try to cross cancel if it's possible, and we can on both of these. So the 3 up here cancels out, and the 6 down there does because they're each divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So on the numerator, we have 1. On the denominator, we have 10. So it's 1/10 x And then 18 and 6 are each divisible by 6. 6 can cancel out, 18 cancels out. 6 divided by 6 is 1, 18 divided by 6 is 3. Multiply across, 3 times 1 is 3, 1 times 1 is 1, so that means it's plus 3. So we get 1/10 x plus 3 for our answer on number 17. The other way that this can be written, and the other way that you will see this written is, let's see if I can just, I'll go 17 over here. You will also sometimes see the x as part of the numerator. It won't be part of the denominator, but if it's off to the side, it means it also could be on the numerator. So it might be 1x over 10, or it could just be x over 10 plus 3. So that's the other option for your answer there. X over 10 plus 3 is the same thing as 1/10 x plus 3. So those two mean the same thing. So you will see sometimes things written like this. Sometimes you'll see it with the x off to the side. All right, last one of these regular ones up top, and then we'll do a little bit more down here at the bottom. So we get -1/8 times 4/5 times -24. All right, so that's -1/8 times 4/5x. And then I'm going to do -24/1 times, I'm going to put this in parentheses, -1/8. Negative times a negative. Now, we can cross cancel on this first one. Those are both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. -1 times 1 is -1. 2 times 5 is 10. So that's -1/10 x. Ooh, and I'm running out of space here. Okay. I'll have to write really small. And then 8 and 24, those two can reduce as well. They're both divisible by 8, which is convenient. So that 8 turns into a 1. The 24 turns into a 3. 3 times -1 is -3. 1 times 1 is 1. So that'll just be -3. So this is -1/10 x minus 3. And the one next to it was 1/10 x plus 3. Kind of interesting. All right, we've got 6 more to work on. And this says to distribute and combine. So when you are distributing and combining, this is a combination of today's, what we just did right now, and what we did yesterday, combining like terms. So it's doing the last 2 days worth of things in the same problem. So to simplify an expression, anytime you see the word simplify, it means, anytime you see the word simplify, it means to ensure that there are no parentheses and no like terms, meaning you've distributed to get rid of the parentheses, and you've combined all of the like terms so that there are no more like terms in your result. In order to do this, you distribute first and then combine like terms right there. So on number 19, we have one set of parentheses and we have one number on the outside of it. So we're going to take our 8, we're going to multiply by the 2x and the -3. 8 times 2x is 16x. Because 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times -3 is -24. So 16x minus 24. We still have a -6x on the end. But when we use the distributive property, that means we no longer have parentheses. So we've done the first part of this. We've made sure that there are no parentheses. Now we have to make sure there are no like terms. Well, I see some like terms here because there's 2 things with x, right? I've got my 16x here. And I've got my -6x over here. So just like we did yesterday, we're going to put those together. 16 minus 6 is 10. So our answer then is 10x minus 24. So we have no parentheses. We have no like terms, which means that this is simplified. All right, on number 20. Again, if you have questions, please stop me. Raise your hand. For number 20, we have 2 sets of parentheses, and we have 2 numbers on the outside of each of those. So we're going to take our 9, we're going to multiply by 2k, we're going to multiply by -4. Does anybody know what number this second set of parentheses gets multiplied by? I see a 2, but also look to the left of it. What's next to the 2 there? It's a minus, which means it's a -2. So when we multiply this second set of parentheses, we're not multiplying by +2, we're multiplying by -2. Always look to the left to determine if that value is a positive or negative number. So we have two things that we are distributing into. So we're going to take 9, multiply it by 2k, that's 18k. 9 times -4 is going to be a negative or a -36. -2 times 7 is -14 with a k, so -14k. And then -2 times -12 is a +24, so +24. So when we distribute, we're going to have 4 terms. We have no parentheses. And so now I'm going to circle 18k. I'm going to circle a -14k or a -14k. And then I'm going to put a box around the -36, and I'm going to put a box around the +24. So those are the two different types of like terms that we have. We're going to combine the 18 minus 14, which is 4, so that's 4k. And then -36 plus 24 is going to give us a -12 or a -12. So 4k minus 12 is what we end up with on number 20. No parentheses, no like terms. We are simplified here. All right. Number 21. I'm going to show you something real quick. Don't write down what I'm about to write down because what I'm going to do is incorrect. Just letting you know right now, what I'm going to show you right here is incorrect. Everybody see that? I know I wrote lightly because I'm going to erase it. This is not what we're doing here. We're not multiplying the things on the inside by 10 because the 10 is not right up against the parentheses. It's separated from the parentheses by this minus or that negative. As soon as, something gets that. So we're not multiplying those two things by 10. Does anybody know what we're multiplying them by? By 1 or -1. Because we set up here on number, what is that? Where did it go? Number 5. On number 5, there was a negative right outside the parentheses, and we multiplied the things inside by a negative or a -1. We're going to do the same thing on 21 because this is the thing that's right next to the parentheses. That's a minus or a -1. So we are distributing not a 10, but we're distributing a -1 to the y and to the -6. You're using the thing that is directly on the outside of the parentheses, not the thing that is not the next closest number, but you're distributing the actual thing. And if it's a negative, that means it's a -1. So when we do the multiplication, we have to start off with 10 because that 10 stays at the beginning. -1 times y is going to be a -1y. -1 times -6 is a +6. And then minus another 1y. And I'll put a 1 next to that one as well. All right. So now we have a couple of like terms. We have a -1y. We have another -1y. We have a 10 and we have a 6. All right. When we are combining the two things with the variable, be careful on this. What is -1 minus 1? Not 0. -1 minus 1, what is it? Or -1 plus -1? -2, yes. So -2y, and then 10 plus 6 is 16, so plus 16. So for number 21, we no longer have parentheses. We no longer have like terms, which means we are completely simplified. We have -2y plus 16. All right, 22, 23, 24. We got 3 more. 22. There's an 8 right outside this set of parentheses. There's a negative or a minus right outside that one, which means a -1. We're going to take our 8, +8, distribute to 4w and -7 or -7. We're going to take our -1, distribute to 2w and to 1. So 2 things to distribute into this time. The 6 is just going to stay there for now. out front. We'll leave that out front. So 6, 8 times 4W. 8 times 4 is 32, so plus 32W. 8 times negative 7 is going to be minus or negative 56. Negative 1 times 2W will be a minus 2W. And then negative 1 times 1 will be a minus 1. So when we distribute, we get 6 plus 32W minus 56 minus 2W minus 1. We have two terms with W. So I'm going to put a red circle around those. One of them is a positive 32W. The other is a negative 2W. And I'm going to do boxes around the 6, the minus 56, and the minus 1. 32 minus 2 is 30. So that's 30W. Oops, wrong color. 30W. And then negative 56 and a positive 6, that would be negative 50. Minus 1 is negative 51. So 30W minus 51. For number 22. Good morning. Thank you. All right. So 2 more to go. 23 and 24. 23, we're going to have to distribute 2 sets of fractions. Let's go ahead and start with that. So I'm going to distribute my 9/4 to the 10/3 and to the negative 4. And I'm going to distribute a negative 1/4 to the 2x and to the negative 8. Now, when I write these out, I'm going to write them just like we did with 16, 17, and 18. So I'm going to have 9 over 4 times 10 over 3x. Then we'll do minus 4 over 1 times 9 over 4. So that's that first set of parentheses. Then I'm going to have a, how do I want to do this? Tell you what, let's simplify this first, and then we'll do this other one. So I'm going to cross cancel. I'm going to do some cross canceling here. So 3 cancels out and becomes a 1. 9 cancels out and becomes a 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. All right. And then we've got, those are each divisible by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2. So that would be 15 over 2x. And then with this other one, the 1 and the 9, those don't cancel out at all, but the 4s both cancel out and become 1s. Because they're each divisible. I'll move that so you can see it. They're each divisible by 4, so we get 1 and 1. And that's just going to be minus 9 because 3 of them are 1s, and so we're just left with the minus 9 when we multiply across. Okay, now the other ones, we're going to end up with, let's see, minus 1/4 times 2 over 1x, and then minus 8 over 1 times negative 1 over 4, because we're distributing a negative 1/4. And then we'll reduce that, and I'll put it right down here next to the 15 over 2x minus 9. All right. So with this first set, the 2 and the 4 can cancel. 2 cancels completely. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that'll be minus 1 over 2x. So minus 1/2 x. So minus 1/2 x. I'm going to write that down to the right next to the negative 9 or the minus 9 down here. And then the other one, this is a negative times a negative, by the way. Negative 8 times negative 1/4. So when we multiply these together, it's going to be a positive, just so we're aware. And then the 8 and the 4 can cancel. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And then 1 over 1 is 1. So that's just a positive 2. All right. Now the good news down here is that both terms that have a fraction have a common denominator. And then the other two numbers are just regular values. So I've got a 15 over 2x minus a 1/2 x. and then I have a -9, and I have a +2. And so when we combine those like terms, 15 minus 1 is what? When we subtract that numerator. 15 minus 1 is what? This is to be 14 over 2, right? 15 minus 1 is 14 over the original denominator of 2, but 14 divided by 2 equals what? That's a whole number, isn't it? What is it? 14 divided by 2. 7. Yeah, so that's going to be 7x. And then -9 plus 2 is a -7. So 7x minus 7. All right. Last one. Here we go. I'm going to make this one a little bit quicker because it's going to be the same difficulty as this one that we just did. So I'm going to do the multiplication a little bit faster this time. I'm going to put the 16 over a 1 inside here, and I'm going to put the -10 over a 1 inside those parentheses. That way we can try to combine some of this without rewriting the whole thing again. Okay. So 7 and 5 do not cross cancel. 8 and 4 do cross cancel. 4 goes into 1, 8 goes to 2. So 7 times 1 is 7. And then 2 times 5 is 10. So that's 7/10 x. And then that's a 1 and that's a 2, 7 times 2, so plus 14. You can use your calculator to do this. I'm totally fine with that. I'm just going to make this a little bit quicker though, so we can have at least a little bit of time to get going on this assignment. All right, then the other one. Let's see. 3/5 times 1/2 is going to be 3/10 x, so plus 3/10 x, and then 30 divided by 5 is 6, so minus 6. We have 7/10 x plus 3/10 x, and then 14 minus 6. 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 over 10 is 1. 1 times x is just x. So this equals x, or 1x, and then 14 minus 6 is 8, x plus 8, or 1x plus 8. Either way. For the fraction multiplication, again, feel free to use a calculator on that if you need to. It does not have to be all done by hand like we did here. That was just a review to make sure that we're still staying sharp with that kind of stuff. All right, your assignment is coming around. Get started on that. Let me know if you have any questions. The first 10 questions are like the first set of problems on today's notes. The second 10 questions are like the second set of problems on today's notes. So just distributing on the first ones, and then you are distributing and combining like terms for the second type of problems. Reminder that you have 2 more days to make corrections to your original unit exam that we took. Thursday is the last day for that.